Hey, good evening, everybody. This is A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men, back with the Elevating Men's panel. We're ready to have a great conversation today, so thank each of you for tuning in. As you know, Elevating Men is the place for men who are looking to improve their lives, and so we like to open up really in-depth conversations that get to the root of a lot of the problems that men face on a day-to-day basis. If this is your first time tuning in, I want to go ahead and, of course, introduce my panel. And so above me, got Mr. A.O. Boykin, the founder of Dinner and Dialogue and The Restoration. To his right, Mr. LaRon Barnes, LaRon the Motivator. And to my right, we got Lojo Speaks, the man, the myth, the legend. And so how you fellas doing this evening?
Wonderful.
Awesome. And so, as you all know, if you saw the event page, you're looking at the title. Today, we're going to be talking about men's rights as it relates to divorce, custody, child support. I understand that it's somewhat of a taboo subject, and so I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer up front. In this conversation, we're assuming that we're talking about men who are doing things the right way. You know, they just want to be a part of their child's life. And may be being treated unfairly. And so if you know anyone in that situation, definitely share this broadcast because we have a special guest coming on, attorney Stacy Shaw. She does specialize in helping men navigate these situations. She's going to be on in just a second, answering questions and giving us some great advice. And so, again, you know, this conversation is from the standpoint of men who are doing right. They need a little bit of help. We do understand and know that there are a bunch of men out there who completely shirk their responsibilities. That's not who we're talking about today. But just to give you guys a little catch up, last week we didn't have the panel. I was a little bit under the weather. The guys had a couple things going on, so we did skip last week, but we are still rolling. There's some great things happening with Elevating Men. Later this week, we're actually going to be doing something with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They have a career fair, and so we're going to be talking to the young men there. And just giving them a couple nuggets of wisdom, some things to think about as they start off on their life journey. So we're extremely, extremely excited about that. We're also still continuing our push. We're looking for mentors for Big Brothers and Big Sisters KC. And so there are over 200 children on the east side of Jackson County who are looking for mentors. They just need someone to spend a little time with them, someone to talk to, someone to encourage them. And so if you think that that might be you, or if you're a member of a church or another organization that may have some good men and women that would be mentors, please reach out to myself or reach out to Big Brothers and Big Sisters directly. And then, as always, I like to promote my brothers and what they have going on. And so, like I said, for Andrew Boykin above me, he's the founder of The Restoration. It's a plan that it's a proactive plan. I really like it. I've made a donation to it, just full transparency. But just really quickly, before we get into the content today, Andrew, can you just run down what The Restoration is, what that's all about?
Well, The Restoration started out as a 32-year plan, and we're now down to 28 because the clock is ticking. What we're doing is we actually are creating tomorrow, starting with the year 2050. We're building the year 2050, including its resources that are financial, land-based resources, a network, and most importantly, a solid structure that will pivot throughout the years. The goal is to create those items and then pass them on to the year 2050 so that they will add to those items, pass them on to the year 2100, and so forth and so on. Because what we're trying to do is get out of our yesterday instantaneously, and that's not going to happen. So what we're doing is we are actually building properly and with a real plan.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Every time we get on here, I just want people to know about The Restoration because every little bit helps. And then for my brother, LaRon Barnes, he's a motivational speaker, an inspirational life coach. Every time I talk to this brother, he inspires me and lifts me up, and he can do the same for you. And so, LaRon, can you just tell him a little bit about your life coaching business, your practice, and what it is that you do for people?
Absolutely. Well, I help entrepreneurs and individuals who are stuck in life, who want to move forward but have a hard time getting out of their head, getting into their life. There's a lot of roadblocks. There's a lot of fears. There's a lot of things on the reason why you have a hard time moving forward. So I help you to move forward in life to achieve anything that you desire. I put you in position to achieve that thing. So, yeah.
It's beautiful. And then my brother, Lauren Jones, Lojo Speaks. Can you tell me a little bit about fatherhood and just your mentorship and, just what your heart is for and your passion for all of this?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Brother Johnson, for that. So I was a teen father, 16 years old. Didn't have a father in my life, so I got to navigate those waters without any experience, any guidance. If I can do it, you can do it. And if you don't know how to do it, I'm here to help you navigate those waters. Because every child deserves a good father, and every good father deserves children. So I am here to help you navigate those waters. I think tonight's conversation will also be a great guide for what that is. Uh, Stay tuned. I got a book coming from Teen Dad to Teen Dad where I really tell my story and kind of break down different layers and different barriers that kind of cause us really to be afraid of stepping into it all the way, right? Because you got baby's mama, and baby mama ain't giving you the time and opportunity. If you taking care of business, she cannot deny you the rights to be a father to your child. So always understand that. Don't let the baby's mother control the scene and allow that child to be left fatherless.
Thank you, thank you. I think it's awesome that you're writing that book, from teen dad to team dad, because we hear a lot about it. We see a lot of resources for young teen mothers, but a lot of times we don't give much consideration to that young man who's, now in a man's position, and having to take on that responsibility. And so I really appreciate you for putting that together. And I can't wait to read it, and definitely distribute it to the people that need it. And so, like I said, today we're talking a little bit about men's rights. So, guys, I found this book. It was called Doing the Best I Can, Fatherhood in the Inner City. And in that book, the authors, just kind of make the point that a lot of times, and not all, because there definitely are a lot of men who they could work, they could provide, but they decide not to. But in the book, it really talks about the difference in child support and custody systems.
If you all can hear, we're experiencing just a little technical difficulty, but what I think he was alluding to is talking about how the fathers that are actually trying to do the right thing, the system actually it kind of messes them over. Charges them maybe way too much, charges them even if they're not the father, does not allow them to have equal rights or visitation rights. Somebody text him so he'll know he's frozen, please. But these are some of the things that fathers don't necessarily know how to navigate the system. We don't know what to ask. We don't know how to ask, primarily because we believe, not saying that it's factual, but we believe that the system was designed to support the mother primarily, and not necessarily the father. So there are no rules in place that says, hey, we'll make this equal. It's more like a shock, like, oh, we got a father who wants to do the right thing. What do we do? What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting, right? Because when you don't have a father, you just really don't have any type of navigational tools to even be able to figure those things out. But also, as I guess victims of the system, we actually try to get outside of the system to try to do the same thing that the system is going to give us the right to do. We have this thought process, right, that we know how much a kid costs, and so once we hear that price, oh no, that ain't the price I was thinking, and so then we fall away from our duties and our responsibilities. The system does have protections in place for fathers, but it's for responsible fathers. If you don't want to be a responsible father, then yeah, the system is not going to be friendly to you. But if you're doing the right thing, and you prove it, now that's probably some of the double standard a little bit. Is moms don't have to prove they're good mothers, but we have to prove that we're good fathers. But If you can prove you're the father, you're doing the things that are necessary to help provide for your child, not just financially, but emotionally and psychologically as well. The courts are actually on your side. Now, with that being said, the most important thing is to be responsible, right? Don't bring
Mhm.
babies into the world if you're not actually ready to bring a baby into the world. You know, that's the most important thing that I think is over encompassing above all of this is if you're not prepared to bring a baby into the world, don't do it. There are ways called protection to protect yourself. Use this head up here to make the right decision, right? Because we think we in love or we fall in lust, and that lust causes us to make some really bad decisions that actually have reverberating effects, not just for us, but also for the child that we choose to or that we then bring into the world. So it's not just you that's affected when you make a bad choice. You know, you're also affecting somebody else's life going forward, and so but do know that there are resources. Do know just because these things happen that your life is not over. The world doesn't end. You just have to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Find the resources that are available to you to begin to rewrite the ship. You know, again,
Exactly.
I'm here. I'm here. I've been there from 16 now to 37. So we talking about 2 decades. I
Wow.
get it. I understand. I understand the pain. I understand all of those different challenges that come into having a kid outside of the confines of a marriage in a lot of cases. There are ways to navigate it. There are absolutely ways to navigate it. You just have to be steadfast in that because if you really want what's best for your child, you will do everything that you have to do up into including taking custody if you were truly the better parent.
Mhm. LeRon, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm grateful that, and I always say that I've never been placed in that situation because that's a very tough situation to be placed in, where you're fighting to get control or to have some kind of, say in your child's life. I mean, but I've always seen that it always from the outside looking in, seemed that the system was against the fathers getting in. I don't. I mean, it's like like there is no good dads. Like if you're a dad and you all are separated, you're the bad one and she's the victim, right? And so it's always like the system's against the man. Man, I don't know. I mean, I don't. That just seems like that's a plot towards it. That's like intentionally done like that. And I think it makes it hard for men to where a lot of the men don't even want to go through the process of it. And it sucks to say that because it's a headache. It sucks that because you got to endure some things in order to get what you want, and it takes a while. And coming out of money, coming out of time, and you just say forget it. Now, once again, you know what I'm saying? Like Lo just said, it's you got to really want it. You got to be patient. You got to say, I want to be in my child's life. I'm the better parent for the child. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you just got to step up and do that, and it's gonna take time. It's gonna get exhausting, but once again, it's about the child and what do you want and what's the best for it.
Yeah. So, Andrew, if you were able to listen, we were just trying to piggyback off of some of the things that we thought that you were going to say, and we did say wait until you're 30 years old.
Definitely wait until you're 30. Wait until you're 30. But no, I appreciate that. So we've got our special guest. She's ready for us. She's got the hair, she's got the makeup, she's ready to go. But for those of you who are unfamiliar, I want to introduce you to the lovely Miss Stacy Shaw. How are you doing today, Stacy?
You're on mute.
You're muted.
That's great. And I always tell people, don't ever mute, unmute me because you never know what I'm going to say when I'm coming off mute. So thanks so much for having me on mute. And thanks for having me be a part of the conversation. As the only woman here and an attorney, I am in an interesting position in this space. One, because I've been a stepmom. Two, I haven't had any of my own children, But I went through that entire process of custody, baby mama drama, getting in fights, her withholding the child from a really good dad. So, and I see this a lot in my practice too. And a lot of my practice is men that have never been married. And so this is a really great conversation. And a lot of men don't want to even try to get in the system because it's so frustrating. And it's frustrating for me being a lawyer because I do two things for my client. One, I'm a legal advocate, but two, I'm a counselor. So I try to work with the parents to get them to the place where they can co-parent. So what I always start off with telling my clients, and I do a lot of mediation with the moms and the dads outside of the court system. And the first thing that I tell people is that ideally, the best situation for a child to be in is that mom and dad are in a great relationship living in the same household together. That way they can see both mom and dad 100% of the time. Okay. That is the ideal situation for a child to be in. Okay. So, but that's not always possible. A lot of times that's not possible because, the relationship breaks down between mom and dad. And so the next best thing, what is that next best thing? Well, for your son or daughter to spend equal time with mom and dad. And so, and that mom and dad have a healthy enough relationship to be able to co-parent, even though they are not in a romantic relationship or they don't live in the same household. And so I try to put children in that position. So a lot of times my clients get it twisted. So I'm always advocating for the best interest of the child. And so, and that might be that mom is being unreasonable or dad's being unreasonable, but I always go back to what is the best position that we can put this child in, regardless of the interpersonal dynamic of mom and dad. So I know that you guys have a lot of questions. I don't, I'm totally open with how you want to work this. If you guys want me to just drop some knowledge or you want me to answer questions, I'm open for either one of those.
But yeah, so we do have a couple questions. So just talking about the mediation and the co-parenting, what have you found to be the biggest hurdle for your clients in having a amenable relationship and, just not having to get the system involved? Why can't we have more mediation? What are you seeing?
You want to be, you know what? Okay. For better or for worse, I'm always honest.
Please.
So the real deal, and I've had 3 cases, right? Like 3 cases very recently. It's mom and dad just hate each other and they can't get over that baggage, whatever baggage that they have with each other, to put the child's best interest first. And so what ends up happening, they're weaponizing their attorney or they're weaponizing the child against each other because they hate each other. They just can't stand each other's guts. And so the number one thing, so that's why I always start off with talking about, I'm always focused on the child and what the best situation for the child is. And if the child is not in that situation, it's a breakdown of one or both of the parents. And so the number one thing that I tell dads, because a lot of times I have to approach it from dads because those are my clients. It's like, you know what? I know that you can't stand her, but tough shit. You liked her enough to have a child with her. You liked her, and mom, you liked dad enough to have a child with them and then not terminate the pregnancy. You took the pregnancy to full term. You had the child. Sometimes you guys live together or work together for a little bit of time trying to make that work. And so, you know what? I don't give a shit. I don't care that you guys don't like each other. I don't care that you don't want to get along. If you don't want to get along with each other, the only way that you're not going to have to deal with that other parent is if you terminate your rights. And one dad that was in a position, we had already settled for 50-50 custody, joint 50-50 parenting time, joint custody. All of my clients have gotten joint custody, 50-50 parenting time, unless they chose otherwise. And the secret to that is I make those parents work together. I said, okay, you know what? And sometimes it says, okay, well, here's your homework. Oh, well, I want that. Here's your homework. You have mom's phone number, right? Okay, here's what I want you to text her. I want you to text her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so send that text. Oh, well, I can't stand that bitch, and I'm not gonna do it. I was like, nope. It's not even a legal question at this point. Number one, send the text message. Well, okay, so then now that you sent that text message, now, okay, you guys are communicating via text message positively. Okay, so now let's go to a phone call. Okay, I'm going to set up the first parenting time, but after that, you guys are on your own. A lot of times it says, okay, people don't want to be that first person to be the bigger person. And they said, well, you know what? I've been the bigger person over and over and over again. I said, well, you've got 18 years. You got 18 years of having to be the bigger person in this relationship. So, I mean, you need to get used to it. So the first thing is that I tell people that the family law system, the judicial system right now, is set up in a way that you're going to have two options. Either you can fund your child's college fund or you can fund your lawyer's child's college fund. I'm going to say that again. Either you can fund your child's college fund or you can fund your lawyer's child's college fund. There are men right now that are paying like between $10,000 and $50,000. I had a client that came to me on a modification. He had spent $60,000 on attorney's fees. He could have put his kid any college, pick a college. By the time like you put it in there, you could go to Harvard twice. Anything
That's
you want.
insane. Okay, so tell me this. So you talked about the best interest of the child, and of course, ideally, and we talk about that here on the show all the time. It's ideal for us as men and women to, mend those relationships for the sake of the children. But when we can't, we can't. When you talk about best interest of the child, is there any sort of standard or formula that's used to determine that best interest?
Yeah, of course. So in the state of Missouri, actually, a lot of men don't realize that it favors joint custody. So you start off with joint custody, pretty much 50-50 parenting time. Okay, so you start off with that, and then the parents are going to, then the court works backwards from that. Okay, so the foundational part of legal custody, which is the ability to make important decisions on behalf of the child, medical decisions, where they go to school, what religion they'll practice, major cosmetic decisions if you're going to cut their hair, and things like that. That's joint legal custody, making those decisions for the child. If you all can't cooperate, that's a foundational issue in the law, that the two parents have to be able to cooperate with each other. If you can't do that, then they say, okay, well, you know what? You guys can still have joint physical custody, meaning about equal time with each other, but only one person gets to make the decisions. And then it goes from a deeper analysis. Okay, well, one of y'all is unsafe for the child. So we're going to have one parent make the decision, and then one parent would have sole custody and the other one would have infrequent parenting time, or sometimes even supervised parenting time. It is very rare that you'll see somebody that has no parenting time. If you are in a case where the other party says, you know what, we want you to pay child support and have zero parenting time, set it for trial, because you have nothing to lose. And so I have a lot of people that come to me and they said, you know what, I settled for this, and I have zero parenting time, or I have supervised parenting time, and you know what, my attorney told me to settle. I'm like, but two types of cases that I will take to trial any day. Slam dunk loser. So slam dunk winner, and you have like your backup is against the wall and you have nothing to lose. And so those are the two great times when you do take something to trial. And so it's the medium part where I'm like, well, you know what, let's see if we're going to settle. If people are fighting about child support, have another case right now. The difference was $256 and $150. And they were willing to like not settle the case over $100 a month because because the dad was not going to get the child tax credit. And so one of the things that I tell people to do, you need to really talk with your lawyer and crunch the numbers and actually see what it is. By the time we looked at it, I looked up the child tax credit. Child tax credit is $2,000 a year. If you would have gotten the credit every other year, that's $1,000 a year. He would have saved $1,200 a year not taking the tax credit and getting the lower amount of child support. And so even though I said, well, He's like, well, I wanted to spend that money on my child. Well, just save the $100 a month. And then at the end of 2 years, give the child $2,400 that you put in a savings account. And so when we're talking about really working through these cases, it's how can we obtain the ultimate objective, getting you the most amount of parenting time, and so that you can have the largest amount of overnight credits, so you're not paying a lot of child support. Because ideally, if the child is in your custody, you know that you're going to be paying for all the diapers. You're going to be paying for all the formula and the McDonald's and the snacks and the fruit snacks and all of that while the child's in your custody. And so that naturally lowers the amount of child support that you're going to pay. So the standard in Missouri for the best interest of the child is both parents are getting along, so that they can jointly make decisions and they can have almost equal parenting time.
Thank you for that explanation. That was very thorough. Guys, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that specific question, or any questions on that?
Yeah, I would like to chime in. You had mentioned the system at one point in time, and I forget exactly what you talked about the system. Prior to you coming on, we had speculated about the system because we don't have the information you do have. Why is it, in your opinion, most men would rather avoid the system, not know too much about the system, or whatever it is, just because of the word system? Because what you just did was you broke down a lot of information that didn't make the system sound so scary.
The system's racist. Let's talk about that. So the judicial system is racist. It is sexist against men, and it has been for a very long time. And if you don't know your rights and you don't realize that, the presumption is joint custody, and you've heard from like your cousins or your aunties or whatever that, you know what, maybe if you just like see the child every other weekend and you can, don't put up a big fight. I have older people say that all the time. And I say, hell no, and I cuss, I'm sorry. But, I say, you know what? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This justice system is for us too. We pay taxes. We vote. We have just as much right to justice in the American justice system as white people. But because we are Black and the justice system is weaponized against us, mostly the criminal justice system. So if you are used to only knowing about judges when you or someone that you know that you love is being put away in jail by a judge that doesn't give a shit, lawyers that just take your money and then will plea you up without even considering trial. And then so Black men are so victimized by the American justice system that they're like, why would it be any different when I try it this time? And so even when a lot of times people come to me after on a modification. So they may have had an original child custody case. And I just had a case like this. My client had so much trauma behind all of these other attorneys that he had hired that it was very hard for him to take my advice. It was very hard for him to believe that what I was saying was the actual best course of action. And so it's really important that I tell my clients, if you should keep on me. If you want something, tell me. If I'm not doing something that you're wanting me to do, then tell me what it is. Call my office, set an appointment. Let's get on the same page. And there are some clients that'll call me some of them 2-3 times a day, some of them 2 or 3 times a week, some of them, at least 2 or 3 times a month. But it's really important for you to be your best advocate. Okay. And so this system, it's not really scary. It seems scary. It seems scary because you don't know a lot. But even if you say, okay, you know what, I don't have the full money for a lawyer, let me just do consultations. A consultation is $100 for a consultation, and it's up to 30 minutes or an hour, depending on what the situation is. And so you could really it's you know what, I know that I can't afford the $2,500 payment, $5,000 payment, whatever the payment is. You know what? I'm at least going to do something, and I will just pay you for a consultation. Here's where I'm going. Here's what's going on right now. How do I get out of this mess? And a lawyer, you're basically paying them for their expertise, and they can say, well, okay, I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or the lawyer may say, you know what, you need to like, phone a friend and get some money together because you need a lawyer. And so sometimes people start a case by themselves. They figure out, you know what, I don't have the ability to move forward in the case, and then they hire a lawyer a little bit later. One, to save money, but two, because they just don't have an option because the other lawyer is just taking advantage of the situation. So, and a lot of times, like I said, lawyers fund vacation homes off of family law. And it's, to me, like when I see somebody that has spent 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand on a single proceeding for 2 years, they're in and out of court. I'm like, at some point, somebody needs to slap both of y'all and say and tell you to stop wasting your kids' money. That's
Exactly.
what it is.
Right.
Okay.
Definitely.
And
Definitely.
so now sometimes I say that and clients fire me. Other times, other times we're like, you know what?
I agree,
I
because
don't think that Barbara is that bad.
Right, right. Now, can you speak to this a little bit? So I had a guy, he asked a question. So his situation was this, he's on child support,
Mhm.
and whatever's going on with the mother, he feels that she isn't taking the money and spending it on the child. And so he stopped paying the child support directly and started providing for the child. So he's literally taking groceries to the house, buying clothes, bringing clothes to the house. So the child is taken care of. He's doing his part. Well, he goes into a court the next time with all these receipts. And they say, well, hey, you haven't been paying child support. They wanted him to make a cash payment then, or, potentially go to jail. And so he pulls out these receipts with all this confidence in the world. And he said, oh, no, I've been taking care of my children. Here are the receipts. They said that was a gift and that it didn't count at all. And so can you kind of speak to that? And
don't work like that, bruh.
Does not, because the purpose of child support is to just support the needs of the child generally. So that is to pay for groceries, to pay for rent, gas, electric, whatever. You don't have to make direct purchases for the child, like toys or books or clothes, for the child support to be considered for the benefit of the child. Never, ever, ever. If you have a child support order, you are bound by that child support order until it is changed by another order. Mom can't take you off of child support. What happens is you and mom come to an agreement. Also, this is happening in a case. Now client is $50,000 in arrears because mom said, oh, I'm going to take you off of child support and you can just help me out by paying me cash directly. So $45,000 later, she doesn't give him a credit. He's always paid in cash. He's never had any receipts for payment. And now he had, all of these horrible consequences. No passport, driver's license has been suspended. He is facing criminal charges. I mean, just a lot of things because he had this idea that he didn't want to pay, that he didn't want to go through the system. That's one. And then the second thing, mom convinced him to pay her directly. Bad idea. And then third, I mean, at the end, he was like, well, you know what? He was starting to pay for toys and clothes and shoes and things like that. But no, the court holds that you would have been obligated to do that anyway. And so you're just being a really great dad by providing more food, more clothes, more groceries, whatever, but it's not going to count as a cash payment. When you talk about receipts, that would have been a receipt like, okay, I paid her a money order. Or we had an agreement, that in lieu of paying this to the state, like this, let's say $100, I purchased this thing for you in lieu of child support. You got the mom to sign it, and then you have the receipt. That would have been counted. But just like general, and that goes back to this animosity that moms and dads have with each other when they're no longer in a romantic relationship. And that goes both ways. And so, I mean, this is a lot of times co-parenting is like the trials of Job. I tell people you have 18 years. If you make the wrong decision about who you are going to impregnate and conceive a child with, it is a trial of Job. 18 plus years, you are locked in. But what I tell people right now, one of the projects that I'm working on, because I've worked on a lot of projects, but for some reason, people just struggle with their moms. Like I've had a project where I teach people how to file their own child support, like their own child custody case. Like we take you through the entire process, show you all the templates, show you what you're supposed to do. And so, but you know what? So many moms hated on it. I just had to take down the damn post. I mean, it was like
Oh, wow.
ridiculous how much hate. I don't
I
know.
wanted to ask you that too. So, as a female attorney that helps men with their child support and custody, what kind of backlash do you get from the women? Is it like you're a traitor, or how is that viewed? Because I see that there's a lot of somewhat sexism in this lane, and so how do you deal with that?
I've gotten my car key twice. I almost had to fight a grandma outside of court. I mean, a lot of women are like, "How dare you do this?" and this, blah, 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 blah. It's like, first of all, I love my clients. They pay their bills. So you know what? My clients are my friends. All right. They're making sure I can keep the lights on. But I also represent moms. So I have some very challenging cases with moms and dads. But ultimately, it goes back to when I meet your little Matthew or little Marcus or little Jennifer, when I meet them, it's really not about the moms and dads. Because I tell my clients, and some clients can hack it, some clients can't. I was like, you know what? You and mom are grown. You are grown. You've already lived your life. And so I'm going to be focusing on how I can fashion the best life that I can for your kid. And sometimes you're going to agree with me, and sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to get an attorney that's going to do what I tell them to do. But ultimately, if you have a plan, like every time my clients work the plan, it works out for them 100% of the time. And so the project that I'm working on right now is getting more families into co-parent counseling and doing more intensive mediation before they get into the judicial system, because so much domestic violence is based around kids.
It is
based around family issues. People get beat up. People like want to like choke somebody out because you're playing games with my kid. So how do we move back from that? How do we move back from that, from the place where we're spending so much on attorney's fees? And I know that lawyers are going to hate me, but I'm like, you know what? Ultimately, I don't feel like everybody can even afford to give you a vacation home. And there are some people that they're going to have to pick between fighting for their kids by paying lawyers' fees or eating. Okay, or putting gas in their car. Some people sell everything to pay for their attorney. I've had clients that like literally they've sold cars, they sold their house, they like cashed out all of their savings to pay for an attorney. And for what?
It seems as if like an operative word you're using here is fighting. Two adults are fighting to win, not necessarily to win the child, but two adults are fighting to win. And there are a
Against
lot
each other.
against each other. And there's a lot of historical pains, like you said, there, which men, and because this is a men's group, we usually talk about men's pains. Men, for one, don't necessarily acknowledge their pains soon enough because they're trying to fight their own pains themselves because they don't even know it's pain. They just think that it's man, and that they have to win, and they have to win at all costs. Otherwise, they will seem weak. And if they seem weak, then ... So this cycle has been here before us.
One
Now, I
of the
did have a
things
question about
to break
the.
that generational curse cycle is counseling. So counseling and early intervention, as soon as you have a child, like sometimes people come to me before the child is even born, but as soon as you have that child, you contact an attorney, tell mom before, when you find out she's pregnant, say, hey, this is usually an issue with people. Why don't we together go talk to an attorney? We can go to mediation. And even if we decide to stay together and we don't even need this order, at least we have something. If everything else breaks down, at least we have a baseline that both of us can agree on right now while we like each other. And that's the point that's what I'm working to get to is before we get to all of this animosity and all of this craziness that costs people so much money and really damages the family dynamic. Because you can have a healthy family dynamic and not live in the same household. You can have a healthy family dynamic, and then there is mom and stepdad, or mom, or mom and step and partner, dad and other partner, and then you have the child. You can have a whole parenting team. You can have mom and dad that live in separate households that are just friends, and they're doing what the best that they can for their child. That is still a healthy family. Healthy family doesn't mean mom and dad married living in the same household. That's not the reality in 2021. We need to start normalizing other types of healthy family structures. And that's really what I'm working on. So if anyone wants to find out more information about that, then let me know. Do you have more questions?
Definitely. So, you talked about setting the tone at the beginning. I think that's very important because it really does eliminate a lot of the issues that pop up later. And so, going all the way to the beginning, one issue that I've seen, and a guy actually, he sent in a question privately. He didn't want it to be public, but he's dealing with a situation where he signed the birth certificate for a child and later found out that it wasn't his.
Okay.
What are your thoughts? And, is there any legislation that's maybe proposed or that could be moved forward in the future? There's a conversation around mandatory genetic testing, just at birth, to kind of eliminate that type of situation in the future. What are your thoughts on that as a legal professional?
Always get a paternity test. Even when people, and there are some men that swear, oh my gosh, it's my baby, it's my baby. I said, you know what? This is the only time right now for you to get a paternity test. All of my clients, I suggest they get a paternity test because you never know. And there is a remedy for him, actually. If he signed the birth certificate, if he has been on child support, or he has been subject to a paternity action of any kind, he has 2 years from the date of that order to set aside the paternity. So he has 2 years. He can set aside the paternity and then be put in the place of that not being his child. That's super important because that statute of limitations is very severe. And so once that passes, then you're pretty much out of luck, unless somebody else comes along and then they assert paternity. And so I always suggest, and a lot of men say, I don't want problems with my child's mother, and I don't want to insult her, and we're so in love. Business is business, and you can blame it on somebody else. Say, hey, my mom is pressuring me, or she hired this attorney, and they're making me do it, and I think that it's good so we can all have peace of mind. But I trust you, but people just want me to verify. You know how parents are. So but I think that's so important that you get that paternity test right up front, because it's going to be more damaging to you psychologically and to the child for you to build this bond. And then this is your child, and you've held out to the world that this is yours. And then you have all of these plans and hopes and dreams for this child. And then it's another man's child. And that's devastating to you. So I tell people to make sure to protect yourself from that devastation, that you want to make sure that you have all of the facts at the very beginning before there's a bond attached to the child.
And see, that goes to a lot of guys don't know when the very beginning is, because some guys think that they don't have a part in creating the child. Meaning, when I say creating, that's the wrong word. Meaning the woman has the most responsibility in the whole thing, but they don't understand where the semen comes from, or the sperm comes from to initialize the pregnancy, and even before that, they don't know how to properly vet this particular person. And even before that, they don't know what their lives are, what they want their life to be. So they're basically just shooting sperm, and then saying, okay, now what am I going to do today when it comes? So
I need to that needs to be my side hustle, is vetting women. Okay, I have some young friends because I'm an activist and all the activists are young. And so and I have young men that I mentor, and I tell them before, and actually some of the young men were coming out of prison and didn't have a lot of experience with women. And so I said, you know what? when you're dating somebody, just let me meet him. Okay, let me talk to him. You always need to have that older person. And it used to be you brought the woman home to meet your family before you got serious or you got intimate with that person. And your mom and your grandmama and your aunties, they always knew. But a lot of times y'all don't want to listen. See, that's another thing. You don't want to listen to wise counsel. And so
I'm sorry, what'd you
because
say? I wasn't listening.
you don't want to listen to wise counsel. Because I tell people, I'm like, you know what? She's cute, but she's not the one. And a lot of times, women that love you and have spent a lot of time around you, they know you so well that they can tell, like, that ain't gonna work. So, and sometimes I've even overheard part of a conversation, and I said, she's not the one. Lo and behold, Stacy's always right. It always happens. It always comes out. But it's really important for when you talk about vetting, the gift of a parent is the most important gift that you will ever give your child because that will shape the rest of their life, the parent that you choose to give them. And so, and say that you make the wrong mistake, like you make a mistake and you're not able to stay in a relationship with that person, or it's like a mistake, or however it shakes out. There's a lot of ways that mistakes are made. Then how do you, okay, so I know that I've made this error. How do I get back on the right track? How do I make the most out of this? Because I know I'm locked in for 18 years. How am I going to be able to work with this person? So, and early in the pregnancy, because a lot of men don't participate in the pregnancy. And that's when a lot of the emotional bonds, a lot of like the conversations about, okay, how are we going to raise the child? If we're not going to, if we're not going to get married, what is that going to look like? And then be honest. Y'all need to, you know what? I'm just spitting too much game today. I'm just spitting too much game. Because I think a lot of times what I see is that women are hurt because men were honest with them. And if you would have been honest at first, okay, this is just a sexual relationship. I don't have any intentions of being serious with you. I do not want to marry you. This is purely a sexual relationship. And then if something happens, you've been telling this person the entire time what it was. But if you say, you know what, go ahead.
Wait. Because I love that point that you just got finished saying. However, if you would have said, and you put a rubber on every time, because I shifted responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I shifted responsibility when I expected her to do something if she got pregnant, or to do something not to get pregnant.
So, you know what? I am I'm old fashioned with this, and I catch a lot of criticism because I believe that women should be responsible for their reproductive system. So I'm a big advocate of birth control. I'm a big advocate of women being able to decide when and if they have children. Ultimately, it is up to women, and sometimes that's devastating for men when, women decide to terminate their pregnancy because they don't want to have a child with you. But ultimately, everybody is responsible for their reproductive ability. And I know that it's like uncomfortable to say that, but men have contraceptive means, women have contraceptive means, but ultimately you have to take control of your legacy because children are your legacy. And half of that child is you, and half of your child and your legacy is another person. And so does half of your legacy read? Mm-hmm. Can they read? Let's talk about that. Chris Rock was right. Can New Booty read? Yeah, New Booty is great. Go back to Chris Rock because he never lies.
See, I always go to this first and second cause thing, meaning I always associate the woman with the second cause, meaning if the sperm is never ejaculated, if it's never shot out, there would be no response. There would be no pregnancy. So she's the egg is the recipient, the second cause. Okay. So that first cause needs to understand that he is the first cause.
I think, and so I had a question, kind of going back on the mediation point, on mediation, just really quick. I've got a text message. So at what age are children able to have a say-so when it comes to best interest? Are the children interviewed based off of their age when it comes to best interest and time splits and things like that?
Okay, actually, interestingly, so I have two ways that happens. So if there are allegations of abuse or neglect, a guardian ad litem is appointed for the child, and each parent has to pay the cost of that attorney. So they each have to split the cost of the attorney, and the guardian ad litem interviews the child to determine, where they like living, if they have a preference, because one of the 8 statutory factors that the court looks at to determine custody is the wishes of the child for their custodian. And a lot of times, that's why I like to meet with kids, because a lot of times there's all of these adults talking in the room, and like the kid has no say in it. But there are times, and it's really smart, because I was doing a negotiation with mom and dad, and because we assume that mom and dad knows what's best for the child, and the child is 9 years old, and mom said mom's not represented by an attorney, and I represent dad, and she said, I'm thinking about this custody schedule, but I really need to run all of this paperwork by my daughter. I'm like, well, she's 9. So, I just sent you an 18-page legal document. So, and the court says that you're not supposed to involve these kids in adult business, okay? In adult decisions, in the court proceedings. The children are supposed to be separate than that. And she said, no, my 9-year-old's smart. And I'm not going to lock her into an agreement that is going to mostly affect her without getting her input on it. I was like, okay. I can't even fault you for that. But I'm like, you know what? That's what the court says. And, I don't know if she's going to really understand, the implications of all of this. And she's like, well, you know what? I'm going to run it by my daughter and let you know. So she meets with the little girl. And the little girl said, you know what? I want to spend half of the month with mom, half of the month with dad. And then I'll alternate weekends between them, because I don't want to be going back and forth every week. I was like, you know what? That is one of the smartest things that I haven't even thought about, that type of parenting plan, because I'm just used to what I always do, and I'm just used to like all these parents deciding. But one of the most impactful things is when children can be involved in the decision, because this is a family decision. But once we start taking it out of this context of being combative and it being an adversarial situation, so you have mom versus dad, and then the child is just this third party over here that we're fighting over this little person. But once you get out of that and you start saying, well, you know what, this is a collaborative decision that we need to make on behalf of our family. Because even if you're not married to mom or you're not married to dad and you live in separate households and you have another girlfriend or you have a wife, your child's mother is still a part of your family. Okay. Right. And so they will always be a part of your family, because your child is a product of that person. And so once we start taking a step back and rethinking how we're approaching this situation, and stop listening to everybody, because a lot of people don't even have good advice. Okay. They don't even know what they're talking about. And so a lot of people will hype you up to be like, and especially your girlfriends. Look, let me tell you, I've had to check some girlfriends and some wives. Because my lips get small when I get agitated. And so, I've had to check some girlfriends, because first of all, you ain't the wife. Okay. You're not the mom. Okay. And I've had to check wives. You're not the mom. You are a part of the parenting team, but this decision is with mom and dad, and you need to get on the same page. But in a lot of times, because men let girlfriend or wife drive the ship, that creates enmity and a wedge between you and the mother of your child. You have a unique relationship with the mother of your child that is separate and apart from your wife. It's not better, it's not worse, it's separate, and it has its own little category. But sometimes, because the woman is jealous, your wife or your girlfriend's jealous and insecure, they drive this wedge between you and the child's mother, and the child suffers. Or what I have seen, listening to your girlfriend or your wife, some dads don't even want to participate in the process. So if you don't have a wife or a girlfriend that's saying, no, you better go see your child, you better figure it out. I'll fight, Felicia. So you can have, it's like, and you know what? I'm going to be here to support you, and I'm going to be here to support her. And so as a step parent or a girlfriend, they're in a support role. They don't run nothing. They're in a support role, supporting the two parents together to make sure that that child is well provided for. That's what I did as a step parent. Go ahead.
Take that or out of there when you were saying, because I would think it would be and. I agree with all because what you're doing is
girlfriend?
No. The child being affected. What they don't understand is they're making that child choose.
Oh,
because the child wants to please mom. The child wants to please dad. When the child is with dad, she does not want to abandon mom. When the child is with mom, she does not want to abandon dad. She's torn. He or she, shall I say? They're torn, and we don't understand what we're doing with that wedge, where that wedge is actually going, right down the middle of that child.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know what, the child loves mom and dad.
Exactly.
Loves both mom and dad. You may not like your child's mother, but your child loves their mom.
Exactly.
Loves their mom, thinks that they're beautiful, thinks that she's beautiful, thinks that she's so smart and so wonderful. And when you're talking negatively about that parent, then that makes most children defensive of their mom against you. And so you're not getting over, and you're not persuading the child that the mom ain't shit. What you are saying is like, you know what? I love my mom. Why are you talking like that about her? And then now what's coming back on you as a dad? And so I keep coming back to that mediation and healing family dynamics, because the system, and I keep saying, and you can always see that I'm an activist against the system, and I say the system. I don't say individual people, I say the system, because the system benefits from us being divided. Okay? Number one, destroyer of generational wealth is divorce. In any family, white, black, whatever, divorce destroys generational wealth. When we talk about the black, you see it in the welfare system, where they were systematically taking men out of the household, where they've been systematically killing and locking up black men to take them out of the household, where they have been this false independence for women. I'm an independent person. I own my own business. I have my own things. But when I was married, I was a part of a team. Okay, so it wasn't just me. It's like, okay, yeah, I have all of this, but I'm bringing it to the pot for the entire family. And so all of these like destructive behaviors, you have to understand where that comes from. This is slavery. They have figured out a way. We don't have you in chains, but we're going to figure out a way to keep making money off your black ass. We're going to keep you paying attorney's fees. We're going to keep you in court. We're going to keep you upset. We're going to keep you stressed. We're going to keep you in this domestic violence court. We're going to keep destroying the family dynamics, so your children are weak and they cannot have a seat at the table. That is what is happening. And so I tell parents all the time that when you don't get along with your child's mother or father, you are setting your child up for failure. Because instead of just relaxing, okay, I've got mom and dad that love me and they get along. Now part of their brain that should be focused on development, doing well in school, focusing on achieving their dreams, making sure that they're the best little person that they can be, that they're going to be a healthy young adult. Now they're worrying about show drama. Now they're worrying about, why are mom and dad fighting? How am I involved in all of this? And so you have to stop feeding into the racist cycles of black family destruction. That's not talked about enough.
And
it just isn't.
The kid thinks it's their fault at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Because because a lot of times the fights between mom and dad are about the kids. So, and they overhear it for some reason, like people think that they have concrete walls. No, you don't. The kids know everything. The kids, and when I can talk to a kid alone, they telling me all of y'all business. Okay, the children know.
Let me ask you this. I'm jumping real quick. I got a question here about out of state, so long distance parenting. Say the parents they're in a child support order, they've got custody ironed out, and one parent needs to move out of town. Let's just say the custodial parent. Are there any protections for the non-custodial parent to possibly prevent that? If not, how does that work? Okay.
There are,
Okay.
absolutely. So in the state of Missouri, there's a relocation statute that requires if either parent is going to relocate the principal residence of the child, that they have to give 60 days notice by certified mail return receipt requested. And so it's not a text message, not an email. Someone has to send you certified registered mail, return receipt requested, and you have 30 days from the receipt of that mailing, of that notice, that tells you where they're going to move, why they're going to move, a proposed parenting plan when they move, and the date of relocation. They have to give you notice of all of that 60 days before they move, and you have 30 days. 30 days to file a motion in the court blocking that relocation. And so in my personal case, my ex-husband, excellent dad, he actually, when his child's mother moved to another state, he doesn't like lawyers. Okay. So, but it was before he got divorced, but he just never liked lawyers, represented himself, and he got awarded sole custody of the child because we were able to prove that the child had so many contacts in the city, so many families, so many connections, that it would have disrupted and damaged his well-being if he were uprooted to move to the other state. And the judge said, "You know what, Mom? You can move, but the child stays here." And so, but the child is, and so, and I couldn't believe it. But he was, at least he wanted to represent himself, but at least he listened to wise counsel, because he was able to prove that the child was so ingrained in his community that it wasn't going to be fair for the child to be uprooted. And so it's really important when you find out, now this is important, when you find out that your child's mother has moved and has not given you that notice, you immediately file notice with the court, because that could be used against them in a custody proceeding. But once that person has resided in that new state for 6 months, jurisdiction over that child attaches in that new state, because jurisdiction is proper wherever the child is, not where the parents are. I don't know who keeps telling folks this. It's not where the parents are. Jurisdiction is wherever the child is. So if the child lives in Las Vegas with the grandma, jurisdiction for a child custody proceeding is in Las Vegas, even if both parents live here. Y'all both got to go now to Nevada and go fight this custody case. And it's so important that you make sure that you adhere to that deadline, because it's very hard to fight these cases out of town, because you're going to have to travel to Virginia or wherever mom moves to. Actually, all of moms moved to Texas. Okay. So many moms of so many cases on my dockets, everybody moves to Texas. I even have a process server in Texas now that does process in Dallas, because everyone moves to Dallas. And so, but even when they do that, you want to make sure, because you do have rights. You do have rights in keeping the child here, especially if it's going to affect your parenting time.
Now, see, I've been asking LaRon and Lauren, what to do about this, and we always go to Andrew, and Andrew just tells us the first thing off the top of his head. So
now we get some real answers. Now we get real answers.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad that you guys had me on. So this is really awesome. So are there more people that are listening to this besides who I can see on screen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is being streamed from my page, the Elevating Men page, the Elevating Men YouTube channel. And then I've got a couple other guys that are watching, and they just don't want anybody to know they're watching, so they're texting me.
I feel you. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. We really appreciate this. And I really like how you touched on the family dynamic overall, because that's something that we talk about every week. If you go to our YouTube channel on Elevating Men, you can see our archives. We've had a couple roundtables specifically about fatherhood, being a better father, how we can overcome some of these situations. And so to have an expert who's dealt with hundreds, maybe even thousands of people in some of these situations, it's really refreshing to hear the other side of it. Lojo, you had something to?
I do. I want to jump in here right quick. Sister Shaw, thank you for your commitment, number one, to the children, and also your commitment just to melanated people in general. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
How many men do you have to talk off a ledge? And the reason I'm asking you this is because as I am listening to you, I can see comments in real time. And there are a couple guys here who are a little bit agitated, to say to say it lightly. So, how many black men do you actually have to talk off of a ledge, just because there's so much anger and animosity towards the mother of their child, that they just aren't using sound judgment in the moment to even be able to have a chance to make anything happen that would be positive on their behalf?
Oh, just probably about every man with a child that I meet. Like just everyone, because by the time you come to see me, I because for some reason I get very specific clients, like very difficult cases where the relationship is very toxic. The dad has not seen the child in months, sometimes years. There's like usually false allegations of abuse. I mean, it is so, the cases that I get are like so bad. I very rarely have like, oh, this is an easy case. Like some of like, I literally had a dad whose child's mother put a hit out on him, and I didn't believe him until I read about it in the paper. And then she put a hit out on him while he was going to court. And I had to inform the judge that there may be an active shooter outside the courthouse. I mean, so my client, like I've had clients that literally their child's mothers have tried to kill them.
Wow.
Literally. I've had people that just give up. And and sometimes the dynamic between the mom and dad is so bad. The dad is just like, fuck it. I'm just going to go. I'll catch you when you're 18. Like, I just can't deal with, like, this woman is just so horrible to me. It is like it's damaging my mental health. I cannot deal with that person.
Yeah, and see,
But yeah.
when I talk to men about that, I'm like, start to build your case. Like, if there is literally that type of energy going on in the situation, start to build your case. It may be patience is extremely hard, right? But start to build your case, because I mean, if you got somebody trying to put out a hit on you, what message is that's going to send a direct message to the court that the mom got some issues and we probably need to get the kid out of that situation,
And you really need somebody to, if you are in a toxic situation, because even in that situation, they settled 50-50 parenting time, 50-50 custody. That they ended up working it out. And so I have very few cases when there is someone to intervene and is really able to speak from a position of trust. Because I talk to a lot of people, because I've been in the community for so long and I've represented so many people. Like, okay, well, yeah, you represented my friend, and I am able to come from a position of fairness, and people just generally trust me because I'm straight up. I mean, I've been straight up with you guys this entire time. Like, so I can talk to most moms and be like, you know what's really going on? How do we get to, because I know that you guys hate each other, but where is that coming from? How do we fix where that is, like where you guys are coming from, and then be able to build a healthy family, a relationship dynamic from there? And a lot of times there's just nobody that's stepping in to intervene. Because even when people tell me, oh my gosh, my child's mother is never going to let me see it, this is a case that has to go to trial, I spend 30 minutes with that mom, settled, 50-50 custody. I was like, you know what? It just took somebody reaching across the aisle and talking to her and seeing what her real issues are and helping her work through those issues and providing like either support or referral. Like I refer people to counselors, I refer people to therapists, I refer people to co-parenting counseling all the time. And by the end of that case, and my cases sometimes take a little bit longer because I'll work through that family dynamic with my clients to see how we can get to the point where they're able to co-parent themselves without the assistance of an attorney or mediators. Then once they get to the end, then they're good. I don't ever have to hear from those people again. Like they're just off to the races, and then I see pictures of the children on their birthday and Christmas.
See, what you're talking about, toxic relationships, elevating men, we've been talking about. Andrew has his platform where we're talking about the history of men's toxicity. And what I'm hearing is that you're sharing the the other side that that women bring their own toxicity to the table. So this is more so for men to understand that, yeah, we are toxic, and we then take our toxicness and we join it with something that we've not totally vetted to find out that it was just as toxic, because we're trying to release our toxicity some kind of way. But what we're finding out is maybe they were trying to release theirs, and in that release, we created this this child. In which Andrew always says we ought to wait until we're 30 years old.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. So, what is like the average age that you deal with? Is this like people in their 20s that are having all these issues, or are we talking about more mature people? What's your average age that you deal with?
No, hell no. People that are like in their 40s, between 20s and 40s, because this is a human problem, and these are issues that, I mean, even if you wait till you're 30. That doesn't mean that you have dealt with all of your baggage, and water seeks its own level. And so if you are a healthy person, you're going to seek out and you're going to attract healthy people and healthy relationships. If you have baggage or things that you have not fully resolved, then you pick something that complements your baggage. You pick a toxic relationship because you don't know how to have healthy relationships. And I think that the largest thing that I do, besides just the law part, that's like a very small part of what I do in a family law case. A lot of it is talking to my clients and seeing like how they can actually have healthy families. And so, because it's not about beating the other person or winning over the other person. This is by the time you have to come see me, you probably already losing. It's already like a losing situation. By the time we have to go to trial, it's definitely a losing situation, because the child as a party, can always pull the transcripts of the trial.
And see,
and you don't think that the other parent's going to give them the transcript of the trial too? And you don't think that the other parent is going to say, oh, hey, your dad dragged me through this and I can't afford to get you those new tennis shoes because I had to pay my lawyer to go after your dad or to go after your mom? The kids hear all of that. And so it's really important to do like that counseling. I am like doubling and tripling down on normalizing counseling between parties and normalizing frequent mediation. So when I keep telling you this project that I'm working on, it's actually a system of family support services that are made for Black people, Black and brown people. Because most of the times, I go into the courtroom, the only Black people in this entire equation: white judge, white guardian ad litem, white opposing counsel, Black mom, Black dad, Black child, me. But everybody else that's involved in making a decision for that child is white.
Where were you when I needed you 20 years ago?
You know what? I don't know. Chilling in college, tripping. I don't know.
She was making those commercials. Stacy Shaw knows the law.
I've only been in practice 10 years. I've only been in Kansas City 10 years. People think I'm a lot older than I am.
That means you're doing a good job of branding. That's good marketing and branding.
But I've been but see, here's also the issue. People don't give me credit. I'm usually the only attorney at any community event. If there's an event in the community, if I can make it, I'm literally there at answering questions. I've been doing community education for almost a decade. So free classes just like this. And so most people know me because I might have gone to their church or their men's group or their women's group, or they saw me at a fair and I was giving out free legal advice. Like I was at their children's school or something like that. But there needs to be more professionals that are actually out in the community. Like at any protest, I'm there as a lawyer to make sure that we don't get our heads busted in. If there is a community issue, I am calling somebody and saying, you know what, this is something that needs to be addressed, even though people may not see it out in public. But I'm somewhere talking to somebody about making sure that the issues are addressed for the benefit of the community. So so if you guys are professionals out there, I always encourage you, make sure that you are sowing seeds in schools, that you're sowing seeds in the community, especially if you're like an accountant or an architect or like a consultant, lawyer, doctor, any of these professional services that usually the Black community and low income communities are completely shut out of. And so most people know me because I'm the only lawyer that they've ever met, usually because I was somewhere in their neighborhood doing something.
So, question: June 17th, I think it is.
Yeah.
Is that the actual day that you and a couple of your national lawyer friends are going to host this African American Ask a Lawyer live on Elevating Men platform?
Oh, sure. I was like, you know what? Nobody invited me to anything on June 17th, but I'll definitely be there. Yeah. So I know some lawyers that would love to attend, that would love to attend that, and are big people that are big in community education as well. And so if it's June 17th, I'll be tapping some people to participate because they have different expertise than I do.
So we actually work backwards in certain situations. That means I have to actually ask Andrew if he'd be willing to even consider something like that, because now you actually have a lawyer who actually has connections with national lawyers, not just local, but who have
national. I know people in Texas. That's it. You know, so
exactly.
but I could. You know what? Actually, that's not true because Thurgood Marshall. They have lawyers all over the country, so I can tap into some people from my law school that live in different states and see
See,
if anybody would be
she
interested.
just expanded her 6 degrees of separation.
See,
And the thing
boom.
is what she's going to do is she's going to actually spearhead possibly this quarterly or semi-annually opportunity for Black people to get to know lawyers.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
You know how you know she means business?
Because she's taking notes?
No. Look in the background. She got that bullhorn ready to go to work.
Always. That is always in there because I want people to know I am playing with you. I will come to your house. I've been to Mayor Lucas's house. I am playing with y'all because, and one thing that is really important, and I've been talking about this a lot. Some people like that I protest as a lawyer. A lot of people don't like it because they think that lawyers are, are part of the bourgeoisie and are these like really unattainable intellectuals that are just too good to ever be outside of a suit. But I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, one of 6 kids. My dad worked on the line of Boeing, blue collar worker. My mom owned a dance school, so a small business entrepreneur. They raised 6 kids. We were very working class, low income. Okay, so struggling. So we were working class. But one of the things that my mom and my dad always told me is to make sure you never stop fighting, especially for the community. Even if you get to this place, you are in that position so that you can open doors for other people. And you can open doors for people that may not have been as fortunate or as lucky as you are. And so I keep this bullhorn and I tell people about this bullhorn because a lot of times when we get to a certain position, we sell out. Let's start talking about it. I'll say it. I got 30 seconds to do it. We sell out. We say, you know what? I got my little house. I've got my house in Lee Summit. I got my car. I got my Benz, my Lexus, or whatever, and I've made it. You know what? I'm above this. No, the reason why we have not been able to progress in Kansas City is that too many people that have the ability to make a change don't do it. Too many people that have loud voices and that have power don't use it. And then when there's a little bit of a scuffle, because you know what, people try to take me out all the time. I could. So many people probably called the bar to try to get me disbarred in the last year. They probably have their own file room for me, like people from all over the country trying to get my license. And so I tell people and you know what? Cornell West calls it niggerization. You had to use the word, but that's what the term is called. Is that when when white America, because it's always white America that grants the power to people. When white America gives you a little bit of something, they give you something that they think that they can take from you, then they hold it over you. Okay, well, we gave you this car, we gave you the ability to buy this house and to go on vacations, and so you better stay in line and you better be quiet. And then if we just decided, you know what? Hey, all the Black doctors, all the Black lawyers, all the Black business owners, all the Black politicians, we about to give you the damn business. Okay, all of us are going to have our equivalent of bullhorns, and we're not taking your shit anymore. Once we all do that, we could have that collective high end power, then we wouldn't be having a lot of these issues. We wouldn't.
I'm sorry. Did anybody else's screen just fade into NSA looking into it or something?
Oh,
Or did
yeah, yeah. Hi. Like, I have several people assigned to my file. Local and federal, baby. Local, federal, and state. All of them. Okay.
So understand, and then I have to throw this in there because she's speaking my language. This is the restoration. This is the restoration. Yeah, this is the restoration. And Stacy, unfortunately, I can't elaborate any more on it because I'm a little bit passionate right now. But yeah, a lot of us talk the same language. A lot of us have the same passion. A lot of us feel the same pain. We just don't know it. We really do not. We do not know it. We refuse to embrace that for various reasons. However, we are poised. We are prepared. We are our savior.
Mm-hmm.
We
have everything. We have everything. And it's so sad that we have so many Black people with money, power, influence, and we still have East of Truth looking like that. Exactly. We still have Black people being killed by the police. We still have a failing education system. We still have failing mental health, regular health. We still have all of these issues, but we have Black people in power in every single sector in this city.
No. Really, you just got finished saying it. They are not in power. They are placed, but they don't have power because they are afraid to exert that power. Because if they did, then that Benz, that house, that whatever will be stripped away.
See, that's what you got to stay in the fight. You got to stay ready. Yeah. And that's part of that niggerization that Cornel West talks about. And that if you are listening to me, this is part of my activism. When I have the chance to talk to people, I always talk about that because it wouldn't be so unusual for me to be protesting and for me to be so militant, Black militant, because the first day that I was on the Kansas City Advisory Board, the Kansas City Star Advisory Board, I said, I'm here to bring the Black radical perspective to this advisory board. Some people were there's a little uncomfortable silence because I said, I'm a Black radical. I'm radical. I am a police abolitionist because I believe that the policing system is racist. I believe that the mass incarceration system is racist. I believe that most of the systems in this country are racist and benefit off of the exploitation and oppression of Black people. And I'm not going to be quiet about it. And every single moment that I have, I'm going to be giving you all the business about it. And and it don't matter if I'm a lawyer, if y'all figure out how to take that away from me, don't matter. Now I just have more time to give you all the business because I tell people that even when you have all of these trappings of success, the most important thing that they can't take away from you, I don't care if they take away my law license, they can never take away my law degree. They can never take away the knowledge that I have that I have gained from being an attorney. All they'll do is if I'm not licensed to be an attorney, I'll just make sure that no other lawyer in this city will be able to make a goddamn dime because I will make sure that people can represent themselves. So you know what? I'm petty like that.
They can never take away your power.
Never. And so they can't take away any of our power. It is all an illusion. You're thinking, if I step out, then they'll punish me. The louder you are, the more afraid they are to punish you. That's why I'm so loud. That's why I'm always so loud and vocal about that, because the more that you're out front, then the more that it's like, okay, well, if I try to take her out, then it's going to be obvious that I'm doing it because she's advocating for Black people. And so the more silent and quiet you are, the easier it is for them to pick you off.
Andrew's going to have a conversation with you in the next couple of days.
Love it. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay,
let me add this to my schedule. I'll see where this.
He hasn't even introduced
all the
For sure. But yeah. Stacy, listen, we want to be respectful of your time, but I appreciate your passion. I appreciate the knowledge and the information that you share so freely. Man, this could have been a paid webinar. You gave out so much information, and so we really appreciate that. Did you have any last words? And please, share your contact information. There may be a few men here who need your help.
Yeah, so definitely. Actually, we have So I'm on all social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Stacy Shaw Law, StacyShawLaw. You can hear me every Tuesday, 7:35 on 103 Jams during the Shade and Shine Morning Show for Stacy Shaw Knows the Law. You can reach me by email, Stacy at StacyShawLaw.com. You can call or text my office. My office loves getting text messages at 816-359-1877. And so if you text that, you'll get to someone right away and we can correspond by text message. But I want to tell you my final thought. And I know that I've spoken a lot because a lot of people, I don't even know who I'm speaking to. And I always have a message that is specific to the group of people that I'm talking to. So anything that I said today is divinely inspired, and I had that word specifically for your group. But I want to remind you guys that you all are so powerful. And people, America, all of these corrupt and racist systems, they are only designed to attack Black men because of how powerful Black men are. Like, I don't know if it's just like because we like have amazing genes, the ingenuity, the brilliance, the resilience that came from our ancestors from Africa, all of mirroring, like adding on to all of that sense of excellence, that ingenuity, that creativity, the artistry, the intelligence, adding all of that onto the resilience that we have had to build to even survive 400 years of oppression in this country, you can never lose sight of that. And all of these things you're doing that are going through right now, even with your child's mother, that's just an opportunity for you to continue to grow. And so you can't think of all of these challenges as negative because you're given these challenges to be able to overcome them. And you're not given any of the challenges if you don't have the ability to overcome them. Because if you didn't have the ability to overcome them, they wouldn't even come to you. Like, has anyone asked you to carve Mount Rushmore? No. Has anyone said, you know what, you better figure out how to downhill ski off the Mount Kilimanjaro? No, no one has ever told you that because that's not required of you. You probably don't have the skill set to do that right now, but you probably could figure it out if somebody said that you had to do that. But the things that are going on right now are only meant to build your power. And you all have the opportunity right now, being in community with each other, to exercise collective power. And so I'm going to challenge you to continue to explore what that collective power looks like. For activists right now, that collective power is going to be political. You might have collective power that is both financial, then turns into political. But don't waste this moment together, because when all of you all are coming together, the amount of power and resources and ingenuity and creativity, you all can do something just even unheard of. I don't even know. I don't even have words for it because I can't imagine what greatness that would be. And so I want to continue to
All the
encourage you.
restoration.
Oh, it's called the restoration. Okay, so it's already done. It's already a thing. Okay, gotcha. I'd love to hear about it. But I want to continue encouraging you because so many people, especially in light of all of the killings and massacres and murders of Black men, it's very easy to get discouraged. It's very easy to lose hope. But you are what we have been waiting for. You are the change. You are the inspiration. You are the catalyst that we have been waiting for. So we don't have to wait for the next generation. We don't have to rely on the generation before us. We are the solution that we have been waiting for. And in Kansas City, this is a very special moment because you see a lot of this movement, a lot of the resurgence of activism, the resurgence of collective power, and you're a part of that. And this moment is a part of that. This group is a part of that. So please, please, please continue to stay in the fight. And if you guys need me, just let me know.
You said that Stacy at StacyShaw.com.
StacyShawLaw.com.
StacyShawLaw.com.
Awesome. You couldn't have wrapped that up any more articulately or more beautifully. You really summed that up, and I agree with you. Our power is in our collectivism. You know, us coming together, finding our causes, standing strong for it, and not letting anyone get in our way. You know, that's really what it's all about. So I appreciate those words. Fellas, did you guys have any last words before we wrap up?
I do, but I'm actually sending you an email.
All right, all right. Lojo, any last words, final thoughts?
Yeah, no. I know we talked a lot about, custody and all these different legal things that go into trying to raise a child, right? When you've decided that as parents you can't do it together, so you have to do it separately. And I want to speak to the men, uh, because as we've been talking, I've just been seeing comments pour in, and I'm like, man, we got a lot of angry brothers out here that can't get past their pain in order to start the process the proper way. Um, and I just want to say to those guys, understand what the end goal is. It's not about you. It's not about the mother. It's about that child that you guys, for whatever reason you decided, brought into this world. And so the more you guys decide to be antagonists against one another, it truly only hurts the child at the end of the day. You guys are going to, adults, you can go about your business when you decide to stop fighting, even if it's for a moment. But that child is stuck in the middle forever, forever. And it's not just until they're 18, they're stuck in forever, literally, because they have two parents that haven't been able to figure out how to get along. You talk about weddings, when they have kids, and all of those different things that come into play. This is not, just to your child is 18. This is for the rest of your life. You've made a lifelong choice, and so it's extremely important to stop playing it like we play a victim game as men too, where we decide we want to be a victim when ultimately we were a part of the choice to bring the kid in, whether it was out of love or whether it was out of lust. Either one. We made that choice to bring the kid into the world just as much as the mother. And we say, well, we don't have any rights as men. All the reproductive rights are, specifically for the women and things of that nature. Like, nah. First of all, accept responsibility for your actions. That's number one. And then number two, move forward with the intent and understanding that you don't want to repeat this generational curse. You don't want your child, male or female, to fall into the same pit that you did. So you have to make a choice in that moment to right the ship, to do something different. I mean, y'all know my story. I started at this thing at 16. No idea what I was doing, but I wasn't willing to give up. I had the opportunity to sign my rights over. And hey, that probably would have made things a whole lot easier for a short amount of time until that kid grows up, right? Or maybe until you mature and realize you signed your rights over. And now there's a kid out there that you fathered in the world and they don't know where their daddy is. Think about those things. We so emotionally make decisions that have long-term consequences. And so you have to understand what the end game is. If you don't understand what the end game is, then you need to take a step back and breathe and get somebody to help you understand what that really truly is. Because if you don't, you're creating it. You're just perpetuating that generational cycle that we've lived through for decades and literally centuries, not just decades, but centuries of just generational curses that it's up to us to break. It's not up to anybody else. It's up to us to break. And as men, we have to be the leaders in our families, the leaders in our communities, and people will follow us. People will gravitate to that. But if we fall back and decide, you know what, I made a mistake and I'm not going to honor that mistake, I'm not going to be responsible for the decision that I helped make, shame on you.
Moment of transparency. My daughter and I just had this conversation today. It took about maybe 12, maybe 16 years for her mother to finally understand that I wasn't the enemy. And I had to make a conscious decision back when my daughter was like 5 to put down the anger in my words, in my actions, in my non-actions, so that and I wasn't apparently angry, but that's how she took it, because I had to look at myself through her eyes, and her eyes said that I was the enemy because we were not together. and her life had to change. So I had to humble myself for the next 16 years to be her friend, to absorb her pain, to hear what she was not saying, but mostly to let her know that it was now safe for her to trust me again. And that helped us to become friends for our daughter. It helped her to understand the resource that she always had, but our pain was masking that. But it was painful for our daughter, and she's still getting that out.
Yeah, guys, this is definitely one of those topics obviously close to all of our hearts. We've all dealt with it in our own ways. Again, Stacy, I definitely appreciate you being here. I appreciate your openness, your transparency, your willingness to be so forthcoming with the information. I know there's a lot of different facets to this topic that we could have addressed. So hopefully, you'll be open to coming back in the future, and we may be able to get some of those questions answered as well. But thank you so much, because I know you're a busy person. You could be doing anything tonight, but the fact that you were willing to take out the time to help the fellas out here means a lot to me. And so, personal thank you. I appreciate you. And for all of you who are tuning in, definitely thank you. We appreciate your input. We appreciate the likes and the comments. Please share this with any men in your family that could benefit from this information. If they're trying to be a good father, but they're having some obstacles or there's some hurdles in the way, Stacy Shaw at Stacy Shaw Law can help. And so definitely reach out to her and her group of attorneys and definitely get the assistance that you need. And as always, we're here every Monday at 7 p.m. This is Elevating Men. This is the premier destination for men who want to improve their lives. And it's our core belief that as we improve the lives of men, the state of the mind of men, and we're improving the families, which ultimately improves the community. And so, like Stacy said, as Black people, we know where we're at. Right. And for us to change it, we have to make some changes individually. And so it's absorbing content like this, positive content that's about healing the family, that really just kind of starts the conversation and helps us to move in that direction. And so everyone's here. We appreciate you. We'll be back next Monday, 7 p.m. with a different topic. And also tune in tomorrow evening. I'm going to be doing an interview with Mr. Chris Dunlap, where we'll be talking about stocks, crypto, NFTs, and the new economy and how you can capitalize on it. And so make sure that you're there for that as well. But thank all of you. Have a great evening.
Andrew, type her information down in the comments for those who log in later.
So I'll get that in. So we'll definitely have her at stacyshawlaw.com. All right. Well, thank everyone for tuning in. You guys have a great evening.